I
What
just
she
finna
said?
ask you. She said it should already be streamed.
She already streaming?
Yes. Share it. Share it.
Okay.
That's got me in for 2 hours. God dang. Hey man, I ain't done this in.
Get ready, get ready, get ready.
He demanded
That's the truth.
2 hours. Let me tell you where I was today. I'm at a place, I won't tell you the name because you're going to ask me why were you over there. And it's mostly white. This lady said to me, she said, I'll see you tonight on Fattiest show. And I'm surprised she even watched that. I'm talking, you didn't even know where I was. That's what she told me. She said, I'll see you tonight on Fattiest show.
I have learned.
I mean, if I told you where I was, I wouldn't have thought that she was watching that. She told me that. I said, okay, dog. Man, we got a dinner meeting tonight. I got people in California doing a lot of stuff for me. Because I got to go out of town to raise money so I can pay that thing. They're going to drive money up in Memphis. I already know.
I'll drive you. You need to go though.
No, I'm flying, brother. I'm going to sit as, I want you to ask me that tonight too. You can ask me whatever you want to. No, we lining up, we turned in our reports today. So the media's going to hawk mine. Strickland got about close to $1 million. They'll give him whatever he wants. And we just did the one fundraiser. I'm getting ready to hit the road.
Huh?
Can you hear her?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you, are you hearing me well?
Yeah.
All right. You bringing me in after this?
Well,
Oh.
we saw it on the screen, on TV.
All right, we up.
Okay.
You know, Dad's gonna have me on the high stool, I'm on the low stool. Is that what you're doing? I'm
No,
messing
they
with-
can same size.
I'm messing with him. He's serious. I'm messing with him.
We ready to bring that erector thing up
I don't need
before I
that.
go to the first break.
Okay.
I don't need that.
Well,
I don't need it. I don't need no record.
who? And just when you thought it was safe, it is absolutely, positively not. And good Wednesday evening to you. Welcome again to Steel, the most controversial, the hardest hitting, the raw is not giving a damn what I tell you about television talk show anywhere in the country. And this is a very special night, especially for the citizens of the city of Memphis. Dr. W. Herenton is in the house, and we're going to be talking tonight with Doc about why he is running, what his platform is. There's a lot of things that we need to talk about. There's a lot of rumors in the street, and the best way I know to solve those issues is to hit the mayor with those particular questions. So I'm inviting each and every one of you to invite your friends, all of the citizens of Memphis to join in. To all of you television stations, 3, 5, 13, 24, and 30, and the commercial field, make sure that you get all of your facts correct as you are in your newsrooms presently watching this show. Tonight, I will not be dealing with the preacher and all of his hoes. I won't be dealing with that on tonight. We'll come back to that on tomorrow night. Let me, on a business end, I have been advertising a new product that I'm going to be distributing around the country called Erector. It's for men who suffer from erectile dysfunction. The worst thing that can happen to any man is for him to wake up one morning and that thing ain't working. Or he gets to one of them young girls' houses and he's begging, he's pleading, and he's calling on Jesus to make it work, and it just won't stand at all. What I'm trying to do, I've got the product for you. It's called the Erector. It's better than any Viagra. It is not a pharmaceutical. It's what God put in the ground to make that man work. It's called Erector. Now, I've been giving away free samples all over the country. But some of you, brethren, don't want to follow directions. Let me tell you something. Stay out of Dale's inbox, telling Dale to send you a free sample. Now, you brothers, I'm going to give you fair warning. The next man that gets in Dale's inbox, talk about sending you the sample and not following directions, I'm going to call your damn name right here on TV. Bubba Jones got a problem with his wood and he don't want to follow directions. Brothers, you got to follow the directions. Go to the email, theerector@gmail.com, theerector@gmail.com, and say, I want the coffee, and we're going to send it out to you with a $5 shipping fee. Hell, you know postage costs. So we're going to send it to you. To the lady that sent me $5 in my, what is that thing? Cash app. Baby, you done lost that $5 because you got to go by the procedure. Now, I'm going to call your name, okay? I know you don't want everybody knowing your business, but I will tell your business if you do not follow the directions. It's the erector@gmail.com. All right? I think that's real plain and that's real simple. As we prepare to go to commercials, and I'm going to bring Doc on, Dr. Herenton has devoted probably most of his life to public service, at least 50 years of service. He has successfully managed the two largest governmental institutions in Memphis, that city of Memphis government, and at that time, Memphis City Schools. He changed the appearance of public housing around the city. It no longer looks poverty plighted. He improved public housing. He brought AutoZone Park to Memphis, the Peabody Place to fruition, and the building of FedEx Forum. Dr. Herenton was elected 5 times as mayor of the city of Memphis. So tonight he is here, and I want you to know this will not be a softball interview. I'm going to hit Dr. Herenton with the questions I think that you, the public, wants to know. There will be no opening or phone lines. So Jim Strickland's camp, Tammy Sawyer's camp, whatever game that you had planned for this show, it will not work. I've got the questions, and I will be talking to Dr. W. Herenton as he prepares to become the mayor of this city one more time. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then when I come back, the next mayor of the city of Memphis, Dr. W. Herenton. We'll be right back. This thing worries me. All right, Doc.
Ready for it to come up?
Yeah.
Is it pulling now? You good now?
Yeah, this. I don't know what. Those of you on Instagram, I don't know what y'all gonna do, unless.
Yeah, I can't
I don't
get y'all.
know.
Y'all can't sit no close. Y'all can't scoot no close.
You know, you good? You good?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
It's on the edge, don't bump the table back. That was foul.
Do you need to do a check? You think
It's
we'll?
gonna go over the air.
Huh?
It's gonna go over the air if we do a mic check.
Do what?
It's gonna go over the air if we do a mic check.
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, okay. She gone, Selena.
Fattiest, could you scoot over a little to your right?
Here?
Yeah, that's
Huh?
They got 1,000 damn questions on here. He got his damn notebook. He wrote down.
Oh, yeah?
He got a damn dissertation. He been working on this shit over here.
I usually don't even write questions down, but I want to make sure.
He did that Manasseh stuff over here. He wrote a whole damn book over here.
You got 30 seconds.
The what?
30 seconds.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
Hey, Dr. Hayden, can you take that mic off the table?
Hmm?
Never mind.
Okay.
Just look-
You good?
Yeah, you're fine. In 5, 4, 3, 2.
And welcome back to the Fattiest Matthews show, and I'd like to thank Dr. Herenton for coming to be present on the show.
Thank you, sir.
He was jiving me about going to Manassas High School, and he went to Booker Washington, but you know, it is what it is. It ain't the same, because when I was at Manassas High School, we were I remember going to Booker Washington every year, and we would have we go and jump on Booker Washington in the football game. In fact, we call it burying Booker Washington back in the day, but that's been about 40 years ago. But let's get right off into this, Doc. Doc, you were the first elected black mayor of the city of Memphis. In fact, you were elected, I believe, five times.
That's correct.
1991, black people came together and said that it was time that we had a black mayor. There was a lot of protesting, there was a lot of camaraderie, there was some trickery also that took place in 1991. Your base has basically always been the black community. In 2009, after being elected, you abruptly left office. And there has never been a public explanation as to why you left. And the biggest thing that I hear in the streets when we start talking about bringing Dr. Herenton back is he left us. He walked off and left us with AC Warden. Well, first of all, you left us off with Myron Lowry. That was tragic. Then we got AC. Now we have Jim Strickland. So people want to know, Doc, why you left, so that they can understand why they should vote for you again.
Let me first of all thank you for extending the opportunity for me to be on your program. And that particular question is very relevant, and quite frankly, I'm pleased to have the opportunity to address it.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just kind of take you back to that setting
Mm-hmm.
at that particular time. I think I resigned in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's 2009. Let me tell you why. And this is the first public statement that I would have made in reference to my resignation. But I want you to understand the context. If you will recall, I was heavily bombarded with negative media coverage. I was also under a federal investigation. In fact, one lawyer told me once, he said, Willie, they are going to persecute you first, then prosecute you. I just want to take you back to that.
Mm-hmm.
The commercial appeal investigative reporting launched a massive assault of all of these innuendos, all of these allegations about me being a crook surrounding the Greyhound property on Union.
Mm-hmm.
If you will recall, it was almost every week. I was in the newspapers, and they were depicting me as a crook.
Mm-hmm.
So that weighed real heavy on me, but particularly on my mother. Everybody who knows me well knew that every day, Thaddeus, when I left City Hall, I went to see my mother.
Mm-hmm.
And in the summertime, I would go sit on the porch with Mom. When I was under the federal investigation, my mother, who had about an 8th grade education, I said, Mom, stop looking at television.
Mm-hmm.
And Thaddeus, I could go to Mom's living room, and I could tell she had watched the news that day.
Mm-hmm.
She flipped the station, or she wouldn't have it on. And she saw her son picture in the newspaper, FBI, IRS, commercial appeal, depicting her son as a crook.
Mm-hmm.
My mom didn't know whether or not I was going to be convicted, go into prison, and I saw that weigh heavily on my mother. And Mother would say to me, she said, Willie, she said, I wish you would stop doing this. I said, Mom, you don't understand. I said, baby, I'm going to be all right. I said, this is a big game. There's a lot of hatred. There's some evil people in this city. They want me out. But I've not done anything wrong. And Thaddeus, man, to go home and to see my mother, heavily burdened by all of this crap in the damn commercial appeal. I was going through a lot of emotions, which distracted me from performing my duties as the mayor. Are you following me? You need to know I had a deep love for my mother, man. And I could deal with the federal investigation. I knew at the end of the day, they were going to indict me. They were going to have multiple indictments. Federal prosecutor controls a grand jury. Okay? To this day, I firmly believe they knew I had done nothing that was illegal. Had some appearances based on investigative reporting. Do you remember the time they had this big article? You know, I'm writing a book. They had this big article saying that I stole the intermodal garage. Had a picture of my face that long, said, where's the $20 million garage? Herenton stole it. Now, how in the hell am I going to steal a $20 million damn garage? But if you are a citizen, my mother looking at the newspaper, she said, Willie, what about this garage? I said, Mama, you don't understand. To make a long story short, I reached a point that my mom kept saying to me, Willie, why do you keep doing this? And I decided that I would resign. Okay, now, there were rumors that I had cut a deal with the FBI. I didn't cut a deal with anybody. If you will remember, the U.S. Supreme Court made a monumental decision that this honest service law was unconstitutional. It gave the federal government too much discretionary. All you had to do was to sneeze, and the government could charge you with fraudulent behavior, wire fraud. And you will remember, Thaddeus, I received an FBI target letter from the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Now, explain to the community what a target letter is.
Well, let me tell you what a target letter is. Something you never want to receive.
Okay, all right.
A target letter is really a notification to an individual, and if that individual has legal representation, that there are reasonable reasons to believe that you have violated certain laws. And they spell out in this letter all of the laws that they will present as a United States government official that you have violated. They let you know you are under investigation. We believe that you have committed the following crimes. That's a target letter.
Okay.
And they give you the opportunity to come in, to refute them, or to talk to them about it. That's a target. That is a very serious letter. Very serious letter.
So what you're saying is that basically the reason that you resigned in 2009 was based on the investigation that the federal government was doing to you, and also the fact of how it was weighing on your mother.
My mother, Thaddeus, and me, because I know you were very close to your mom. My mom didn't understand that a hit had been placed on her son. And to this day, and I'm writing this book, there were powers to be that wanted me out of the office of mayor.
Who were those powers?
I can't tell you that. They wanted me out. Wait a minute, Thaddeus. The powers to be, and I'm convinced to this day that those individuals who've taken an oath of office, they can be in a U.S. Attorney's office, a DA's office. There are many business people that have influence over governmental officials. I believe they called a hit on me. They wanted me out. They wanted Herenton in. I was uncontrollable. So they either had to kill me or to lock me up.
So when we go back and we look at that particular situation, and I remember, and I can't think of the girl's name now, that they said you were involved with.
Smith was a
Smith,
Yeah.
Smith. She was living in a housing unit here, and they said that this was your woman that was supposedly a meeting with Richard Fields, who's gone on to his just desserts. Richard Fields and some developers who had a meeting out at one of these developers' houses where a plan was put together to sabotage whatever character that they thought that you had in this community. So, but this community has never heard of all of the practices of the powers that be that are not elected to office, but they control the persons who are in office. They're the money guys in town. And most of these guys are not going to be black. These guys are going to be white power brokers who go and get these handkerchief head Negroes and use them as pawns. So in summation, Doc, your basic reason for resigning is what?
The basic reason for resigning was that the federal investigation had an enormous impact on my family and caused me a great deal of duress and stress that impacted my ability and my interest in performing my duties as mayor. It's just that simple.
So what do we say, Doc, when the person say, well, that happened in 2009, and these white power brokers and the people that are in place are still alive? What keeps them from coming back at you and keeping Willie Herenton from resigning again when he's elected?
Well, that is, first of all, and my mother's, is no longer here.
Right.
If it had not been for Mom, the pressures would not have weighed that heavily to force me to resign.
Mm-hmm.
So my mother's gone on to be with the Lord. Come hell or high water, when I'm reelected, ain't no damn pressures will get me to resign. You know that.
Because as you said, ain't a punk bone in your body. So, Doc, as we move, I think that you've basically given the answer to this community concerning that. But why, after 10 years, have you decided to run again?
Okay. You answered me all good questions, and for your listening audience, Thaddeus, you and I had a conversation about coming on the show. And I said, Thaddeus, you hit me with whatever you want to hit me with. I mean, anybody who's ever interviewed me will tell you I've never asked them what you're going to ask me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on your show, so this is open game. Whatever you want to know, whatever you want to ask me, and the public needs to know that. I watched some of these other stations. They had the mayor on WRE, whatever, Channel 3 the other morning. Nothing but softball stuff. When I come on, they're hardballing me. Okay, okay. So I want you to hardball me, because I'm not going on their shows. Yeah, I won't be on any of their shows. You need to let them. They're watching you until they get some objective, professional journalists. I will not be on their shows. They don't need to call me. I'm on the Fattiest Matthews show. You're gonna hit me with hard stuff. Anything you want to hit me with. Because you and I believe, Thaddeus, that the public has a right to know. Am I right? So, but when you are dealing with media people that are so biased and promoting, I know you're promoting my candidacy. You know why you're promoting my candidacy? Because you've seen that in other media staff. Hell, if you don't promote me, none of the others are going to promote me. You know. So back to your question.
Yeah. Why did you decide? I mean, this was not something that you had to do.
Right. Well, first of all, let's go back to, and I'm going to answer your question.
Mhm.
Let's go back to 1991. I never wanted to be the mayor.
Mhm.
Did you know that? It was never part of my career path or aspiration to be the mayor. When I retired from school superintendent, there were 5 young black men who came to me. I call the name, Reginald French, Andre Bertrand, Tom, he was a lawyer then.
Okay.
And
Bertrand Thompson.
Yeah, they came and they said, Mayor, I wasn't mayor then, Dr.
Mhm.
Herenton, we believe it is the opportunity to elect an African American as mayor. And at that time, Harold Ford Sr.'s name was out there, Ben Hooks, I think AC, and a lot of them. These young fellows, we had 2 lunches at
Mhm.
Piccadilly's in Whitehaven. And I said, well, that's not really what I want to do. And they said, Dr. Herenton, you are the only black person that we feel that we can support as mayor. Then, if you will remember, Talib Muhammad was alive then.
Mhm.
Teddy Withers was alive then.
Mhm.
Shep Wilburn was heavily involved in
Mhm.
politics.
Mhm.
And Dale Gill. They all came up with the idea of the People's Convention.
Right.
Okay? So the People's Convention was conceived, and I didn't even want to get involved in that.
Mhm.
Long story short, these guys talked me into becoming a candidate. Otis Higgs was alive then.
Right,
All
right.
these guys, the more I think about it, most of these guys are passed on.
Mhm.
So they said, Doc, if you don't get into the People's Convention, there won't be no, won't be no lively convention. That is, they talked me into getting into the People's Convention.
Mhm.
Well, I'm a competitive guy. Once I got in the People's Convention, I said, hell, we need to win.
Mhm.
And we won. We got
Mhm.
70% of the votes on the first round.
Mhm.
So the People's Convention at the Mid-South Coliseum produced me as the winner,
Mhm.
70-something%. So there I am, the people had selected me, I had to run.
Okay.
That's how I got into politics. So it was never my desire to be a mayor. Higgs wanted to be mayor. Harold Ford Sr., I believe, had he not been caught up in all his legal entanglements and the timing, I believe that Harold always wanted to be the first elected black mayor. But because of his legal problem, the timing wasn't right.
Mhm.
So there I am, these young guys trying to get me to run for mayor. I get in the People's Convention, and all of a sudden I win, and then I got to run.
Mhm.
So I got into that, okay? Now, I wanted to establish that it was not my desire, like these opportunists you see today, they want to be the mayor.
Mhm.
It was not my career path to be the mayor. This was presented to me, and I took on what I perceived to be what a significant number of people wanted me to do on behalf of Memphis.
So you were elected, and you've been elected 5
5
times.
times.
You've been gone since
Let
2009.
me answer your question.
But why now?
Why not? Let me answer your question. Okay, that is, when I left, I did not prepare a succession plan.
Mhm.
I did not. I watched Atlanta. I watched the succession plan. But I'm gonna be honest with you, and some of your viewers may say I'm overly critical, but Memphis is totally different from Atlanta. I watched Maynard Jackson pass the baton to Andy. I watched Andy, I believe, pass it to Bill. I watched Bill pass it to Shirley. They had a succession plan.
Mhm.
There was no one at the city council level. Could I pass that on to Myron Lowry? Hell no.
Mhm.
I mean, he got it anyway by
Mhm.
default, okay?
Okay.
So there was no clear succession plan in the office of the city council, and I didn't have anybody on my staff
Mhm.
that I could pass this baton to. So one of the reasons I'm going back, and I'm not running for mayor, we're gonna win this election,
Okay.
okay? This is a done deal. We're gonna win this election. I'm gonna tell you why before we leave here. So I've been gone for 9 years. AC Water was a disaster. A total disaster. I said it publicly, out of no disrespect, but it was a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Part of all of the problems that I faced during my last 2 years was the powers to be wanted me out. And I'm telling you a lot that's gonna be in my book. The closest thing to a bribe, and no one ever tried to bribe me in my career in 17 and a half years as mayor. Nobody ever. If you notice when they had all of that, what do they call it, Tennessee Wall stuff?
Right.
No one came to me. Do you know why? No one came to me with no crazy stuff, with no bribes, because they know I don't play that. Closest thing that came to a bribe with me was when the late Attorney Richard Fields came to me and said, Willie, we've conducted a poll.
Mm-hmm.
They brought in poll results, which is going to be in my book, which showed that I was going to lose. Okay? Then they said, there's some people want to know what will make me happy. I said, what do you mean what will make me? We just want to know, we want you happy. What will make you happy? Do you understand what that means?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I said, well, what are you talking about? What will make me happy? We just want you to be happy. We just don't think at this point in time your leadership is good for Memphis. You know what I told you. That's when the onslaught of all of the investigations came on me.
Because it was found out
Listen to me.
that Richard Fields was tied.
That was tied to, it was also, anyway, I'm writing a book. I don't want to get ahead of, all this is going to be in my book.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I don't want to get ahead of all of the, I'm going to write a bestseller, brother. That was the closest thing to a bribe. If somebody comes to me, what will make you happy? We want you to be happy, but we don't want you to be the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
So that meant Fields had connections with people with money.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted me gone. They wanted Horton in.
Okay.
It
Because he
real
was
good.
controlled.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna let you say.
Because he was controlled.
Okay, good.
Okay.
They wanted me out.
Okay.
When I refused to voluntarily go out, then that's when all the attacks came on the Greyhound bus stuff. The U.S. Attorney, the FBI, the Commercial Appeal, the investigative reporter. They said he won't leave. They're going to crucify me.
So, Doc, if you are elected, or when you go back to office, what would you do differently this time around than previously?
Well, that is, I'm glad you asked that question because it gives me the opportunity to tell you, and I noticed in your introduction, but I want to reiterate some of the accomplishments that you cited. Number one, that is, if you will recall, in 1991, if you looked at downtown Memphis, it was barren, it was desolate. There was dead, the downtown was dead. When I came into office, we engaged in a partnership with the Bells family. That's when the Peabody place came into existence, the UDAG grant. They were about to lose it. I think that was about $140 million development. We came in partnership with the Bells family, made that happen. That ignited the downtown growth, okay? That's when it started. Then Henry Turley, and then I think we had some other developers from Chattanooga, started all of the housing, Harbortown. So what we did, we ignited, first of all, the vision. And I kept saying, even if you will remember, there were some black people that said, Herenton don't care about us, all he cares about is downtown. If you will remember, I had to continuously say to our people that the downtown is a heartbeat of a city. I gotta get the downtown growing. And then everybody will benefit from it. So we started the downtown renaissance. South Main was desolate. We started the art district. I think Ephraim was the only person who believed in it at that time. You go to South Main now. I just want you to know the vision and the leadership that started the downtown renaissance came under the Herenton administration. AutoZone. You know why AutoZone is downtown? The Bells family and a few other corporate leaders and Willie Herenton convinced them that that was a good investment, that culturally downtown would be good for AutoZone. That started a spark of corporate presence downtown. That's what we did to ignite the downtown resurgence. I think before I left, there were about 10,000 people living and working in downtown Memphis. People forgot when it was dead. The other thing we did, you talked about it. I remember when I went over to Lamar Terrace, I think one of my aides was with me, Thaddeus. I'd never seen people live in such dehumanizing conditions. And I remember, I prayed to God, I said, if you enlarge my territory, I'll correct this condition. If you go back over to where Lamar Terrace was now, the beautiful fountains, they got beautiful places for people to live. Lemoyne Garden, the foot homes, we put the footprint so they could finish it. We turned public housing around such that anybody would want to could live there.
Mm-hmm.
The down payment assistance program. And most of these people that benefited from that were single-headed household black women. We put them in houses, down payment assistance program. The ex-felon program, I think we hired about 300 or 400 ex-felons.
So, Doc,
So I'm gonna tell you all the things that we did.
Are we talking then about proven leadership?
That is all you're gonna hear us talk about in this campaign is this. Herenton, a proven leader.
Doc, let's talk about something that is very near and dear to the hearts of most people that live in this city. And that's the crime rate.
Okay.
I think there were 4 shootings yesterday. I think that this month has been the largest month of this year as far as deaths are concerned. Coming back into office in 2020, what is your plan as mayor of this city to decrease crime and to make the citizens of this community feel safe again?
That's a good question, Thad. First of all, let me tell you this. You know, I really detest politicians that try to give you these political answers to real tough problems. First of all, the crime problem is a deeply rooted problem. There are a number of factors, and you know them as well as I do. It's family disorganization. It's a lack of education. It's an urban culture that is basically grounded in deteriorating families. I think I've heard you say, well, in fact, I don't think I know you. You and I were reared without fathers in our home.
No, I didn't have one.
Listen, I said you and I, am I correct?
Okay,
Okay.
right.
I didn't have a father in my home.
Okay.
My grandmother and my mother raised my sister and me.
Mm-hmm.
Are you following me?
Mm-hmm.
But they were strong.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go to church. My first job when I was 11 years old, I remember going to Arkansas, chopping cotton for $3 a day after 12 hours. So, and my mother and my grandmother said, Willie, you are as good as anybody that God made. This was always, and she would say, boy, get a good education. That is something that no one could take away from you. I used to wonder why Mama would say that. She said, boy, get a good education. That's something that nobody can take away from you. What she was really talking about was in the heyday of segregation, she was saying to me, if you get a good education, the white man can't take that away from you.
Mm-hmm.
You got me?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is, what we've got to return to, Thaddeus, and I'm not a god. I can't wave a magic wand. We've got to grow strong families. I really believe, and don't think this is self-aggrandizement, I really believe that when I'm reelected, my appeal to this community, to the young people, to the gang culture and all of them is gonna be felt. Are you following me? Let me tell you this. You remember 2 years ago, I spoke at Jim Strickland's prayer breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
I called the crime problem a black problem.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember how the activists came out? And I'm gonna say it on your show.
Mm-hmm.
And they're gonna come at me again. That is, the crime problem is a black problem in the sense of, I think that year I said that we may have had 219 homicides.
Mm-hmm.
90% of them were black on black. You said the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Farrakhan has said the same thing. A few of the activists came after me. They said, well, Herenton is letting they want to start talking about slavery and all this crazy stuff. I said, white folks are not killing us. You said the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
90% of those homicides that year were black on black killing each other. Now, what does that mean? That means we as a people, our family, I call it the black family, is church. Okay.
Okay, but Mayor,
Go on.
what can you do
I'm getting ready to tell you.
as mayor to make mamas raise their children correctly?
Okay.
To put the right mindset into them?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to take on that responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, we just straight up with each other. When a person hit me with a question like that, I know why you got to ask, but you know logically, no one can solve that problem. You already know that, but you got to ask me.
Right,
that.
right.
I got that. No, but here's what I can do. Here is a realistic context. And I don't want you to think, I'm not a God. I cannot wave a magic wand. I really believe, that my election, and I'm not talking to you about the Gideon 300. I want to talk to you about that tonight before I leave. Because the Gideon 300 is, it's a mentoring, it's a religious-based program that I want to involve the church community in, that is going to be the most powerful movement that we've had in the black community since I've been here.
But let me go here, Doc.
Okay.
And that always,
No, I mean, it's you and the church too.
okay, but and that sounds good, and churches gonna do what they do, some of them. But we got a crime problem right now.
Right.
When under this administration, under the Strickland administration, do you think that he has allowed the police to do their job?
Let me explain this to you, and I'm appreciative that the Memphis Police Department Executive Board endorsed me. I want Mike Williams to know I greatly appreciate the confidence that they have in me to support law enforcement and to make sure that all of the officers and employees are treated fairly with dignity, and I appreciate that. If you will recall, it was Blue Crush, and some people did not like Larry Gardner. There's some officers that did not like Larry Gardner.
I did not
Okay,
like
and you didn't like Larry
Larry
Gardner. Okay,
Gardner.
now let me tell you about me. You know the way I roll. I said, look, some of y'all, some of them didn't like Winfrey. Some of them did like Winfrey. Some didn't like Burgess. I said, the police, I said, I've never had a director that all of y'all like. I said, I like him. You know why I like him? Because he's the first crime-fighting director that I've had. I want a director of police that fights crime. So we did Blue Crush. We broke up drug houses, crack houses. We put people in paddy wagons. We locked them up.
There were some police officers, and some of them called me today, that there is a rumor that if you are elected, you bring Larry Godwin back.
No, I'm glad you know. First of all, that's not in my thought processes, and there's no way that Larry could come back to Memphis as a policeman. I'm glad you asked that question. In fact, I want you to hit me with all of the rumors. There's no way Larry Garvin is coming back to Memphis as police director if I'm elected.
Would you
So let's
keep
just
Mike
discuss.
Rollins?
Would I keep Mike Rollins? I'm gonna be honest with you, no.
Okay.
You know, I'm just straight up, no, I wouldn't. I'm not being disrespectful to Mike, he would not be my choice.
Okay. So then, and because the citizens of this community are basically saying what you're just saying, Doc. We need a director of police that is going to fight crime. I was talking to a former police officer today, working at Memphis like gas and water. The community policing, I think it was COAC?
That's correct, yeah.
The community policing was, in my opinion, a very strong factor to crime in this community. People knew the police officers in that community. The police officers knew those people, knew those young men, knew their mothers, knew their grandchildren. Forget about the church, and we'll get to the Gideon. But hell, I don't trust the church myself as far as fighting crime, because we do not deal with a lot of the issues. But the citizens want to know that Dr. Herenton is going to put a police director there that is not controlled by the politics, but is controlled by the desire to decrease crime throughout the city of Memphis,
That is.
and allowed to do his job.
Okay. How many police directors did I have when I was mayor? How many did I fire?
You fired quite a few.
Okay, so let me explain something.
Okay.
Everybody knows with me, if you don't do your job, I'm gonna fire your ass.
Okay.
It's just that simple.
My guess, and I guess I need to take a commercial break though. My guest, Dr. W. Herenton, and we're going to get back into some, I'm going to hit him, I got some things I'm going to hit Doc with when we come back. There are some rumors, and before I go, let me just clear one of them. Let me ask you about one of those rumors, Doc.
Yeah.
One of the rumors that came out of the Strickland camp was that Willie Herenton is ineligible to run as the mayor of the city of Memphis because Willie Herenton lives in Collierville and not in the city of Memphis, and he can't run for mayor, and he lives in Collierville. What's the answer to that, Doc?
First of all, let me say this. My legal residence is in the city of Memphis. In fact, I'm going to invite you over to my residence to sit on the porch with me.
Okay.
That's 868 Barton Street. Now,
Your mama's old house.
Yes. Now, do I own a home in Collierville? Of course I do. I'd like for you to drive out there. I'd like for you to buy it.
It's only 800 some odd thousand, huh?
Let me explain this to you, Thaddeus. My primary residence is 868 Barton Street. I think I told you this. And you're going to see me redevelop that that's in 38126, 106 zip code. Thaddeus, I intend to live on that street. I'm going back to my old neighborhood. I own, 2 houses there. I'm back in my mother's house. Do I own a house in Collierville? There's no law that says that I cannot own a home if I can afford it in Collierville, in Millington, in Germantown, but my primary residence must be in the city of Memphis, and it is.
What do you say, Doc, to those who say, how can he run the city of Memphis and his charter schools are closing?
Well, the charter schools have nothing to do. That's amazing to me. It's amazing to me. Do you know the city of Memphis is a large governmental unit? A charter school is so small, very, very small. I ran a school district that was the 10th largest in America with 147 schools. So why does somebody ask me about a charter school when I've run, at that time, the 10th largest public school system in the nation? The charter school is totally different from running a public school system. And we're closing charter schools, quite frankly, because our business model has changed. the whole climate for charter schools have changed. That's why we closed. Why the Kmart closed? Why the Sears closed? Because if some of your business units are costing you more to operate as a business, you can't keep them open. Real business. We're making business decisions on charter schools. If there are liabilities, you can't keep them open. If you're not educating kids the way you want to, you gotta close them. No.
All right. Dr. Willie Herenton is my guest, and we'll be back with more questions right after these commercial messages. Dale, see if you can move around the YouTube. They complain they can't see in.
You see me?
What's wrong? What else wrong?
Oh, man.
Somebody call Miss Debbie and tell her what I said on YouTube.
What?
I almost cussed out because I didn't know who she was.
What she said? What she said?
She was trying to explain to me what to tell them,
But what?
why they can't hear.
You don't know motherfucker know goddamn explanation? Did you tell her that?
No, I didn't know who she was. I blocked them. After I told them, if you want some more speakers or whatever, another microphone for the pad, buy one. Make a
Yeah, fuck
donation.
them.
You off of Instagram.
I've been off.
They was trying to do it. I didn't want to break you. I told them when you gonna come on. They was on Facebook. I said I put it back up.
I see us now. I see us right now.
Instagram.
Wait, don't share it. Oh, I'm starting back over.
Oh,
It was just gonna reconnect.
oh.
What is that?
You know what that is?
Yeah, what is that? What is that gonna be in the view? Is that what that's right now, they said.
Yeah, that's on
No, I'm talking like-
Facebook.
I'm talking right here. I see us.
That's on YouTube.
But I see us. When they said they
Right.
can't see me.
The camera, they see us.
Oh, they did?
Mm.
Maybe that's the one that said, I don't know. And you ain't pulling no punches with me. He stayed up at night writing damn sessions. I'm sorry. No, I won't. No, that you supposed to hit it, baby. Everything you want to ask me, just you hit it. Yeah.
How many more we got? Okay. Hey, well, come back, put the retro thing up there too. Victoria, you gone?
This is your studio.
Hmm?
This is your studio. Like,
No, this is their
oh,
studio.
I thought you were way out somewhere. I told Mark.
No,
I
no.
thought you were way out. No, I got you. That's good.
See,
This is
we
what I'm
moved, we
saying.
used to be out in Bartlett.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right. We were in Bartlett at one time.
Okay, that's what.
And Sam Smith, who started the company before he died,
I knew so.
got this building.
Okay, I didn't know that. When Mike told us, I said, no, Mike, they're in Bartlett. I got you.
He was just here last week.
That's what I'm talking about. That's why he told me it was here. I said, it's in Bartlett. I got you. Sam always said he was gonna do my wedding. I said, man, I don't think that's gonna ever happen. He was always jiving. Yeah.
Okay. And welcome back to the Fattiest Matthews show. Dr. H is in the house, Dr. Willie Herenton, who will be the next mayor of the city of Memphis. And we were talking, Doc, about the crime, and Doc stated before the break that he wants a director of police that's a crime fighter, that's not going to set up on the 11th, 12th floor, wherever it is, and just be a paper pusher, but he wants somebody actively fighting the crime in the city. He did state that Mike Rollins would not be his choice for the police director and killed the rumor that Larry Godwin was coming back. The Memphis Police Association, for the first time, Doc, out of all of your wins on last week, endorsed you
Yeah.
for mayor. So that means that that body of police officers believe in you as the mayor. I guess, hell, it really ain't no other choice. But when we look at the recent, and I call it political tactic of Jim Strickland, what do you think about the 3% raise that the city is offering the police?
Well, first of all, let me just say this. My record is very clear that under our administration, the Memphis Police Department received the highest increases probably in their history. For about 13 consecutive years, we gave anywhere from 3 to 5% raises. Okay?
Mhm.
So we provided them with the best of equipment. In fact, we bought Comcast here.
Mm-hmm.
All of the technology that they are utilizing now came under our administration. So I have been pro-law enforcement. At the same time, I've also demanded that the police department operate with integrity and protected the rights of citizens. So we've had a balance, but I'm pro-law enforcement. I think in the past, that is, the reason the police association, quite frankly, did not endorse me was more about some of their officers didn't like my style. They didn't like my, I don't know, my whole persona. But it wasn't because I was not pro-law enforcement. So for the first time, In my political career, I have received endorsement, but here's the point I'd like to make. Despite the fact that they never endorsed me, I took care of them.
Okay.
Yeah, because I value their public service more than their
You're gonna have
dislike
to
for me.
stop hitting the desk so hard.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I know you're heavy-handed, your box.
Yeah, I'm fighting, yeah.
But you distracting the mic. But you gave raises.
Yes.
Would you support officers getting their benefits back if this referendum where they're asking for a half-cent police safety tax is voted on by the citizens of Memphis? Would you support? Because one of the biggest things that you hear police officers talk about is their benefits. The bank that I go to has police officers that have to work second jobs.
Yeah.
Some police officers are working third jobs. Under the Strickland, under the Warden administration, they lost a lot of benefits for themselves and their families. As the mayor, would you work to bring back those benefits?
Let me tell you what I've done, Thaddeus. I have reached out to Mike Williams. I've reached out to Tommy Malone. Tommy represents the fire department union, and I've reached out to Mike. And I told them, I said, look, I want to sit down with you guys. I want you to present to me all of your financial projections as to why you believe the city of Memphis can afford, because they have more knowledge of this. I'm still willing to do that. I'm answering your question this way. I need the facts. I need to know where the city's financial condition is. It's changed since I've been gone about 9 years.
You left 90 million in the reserve.
I left close to $100 million in the reserve, 96 point something million dollars in the reserve. So Mike will tell you, and so will Tommy. I said, look, I want to sit down with you guys. Show me what you were presenting to Strickland. If they can demonstrate to me that there's a financially feasible way to do, of course I would want to see people taken care of. Let me tell you what happened. I went to a meeting and there were retirees came over at the benefits office. That is, there were people who came into the meeting. They had all of these, the medicine they were taking. And they were just lined up on the table. And they were telling me, they said, Mayor, we can't even afford medicine. So to answer your question, I have informed both Mike and Tommy that I'm willing to sit down with them. I want to see their numbers. If they can feasibly show me how the city can afford to do that financially, of course I'm for that.
Right, and you guys that need that medicine that I got for you, T, put that on the screen for a minute, so the guys, y'all go ahead on and email theerector@gmail.com so I can send y'all a free sample. Keep it up there for about 3 or 4 minutes, then take it down. Now, let's talk about something else. Let's talk about the cycle of poverty in this community. The area that you're talking about around your mom's house in the 106 area,
Yes.
the median income is probably less than $12,000 a household, okay? What as mayor will you do to try to eliminate some of this cycle of poverty that we have in the black community, but really in the city of Memphis?
First of all, Thaddeus, I think people have to take a realistic perspective on poverty. And if you notice in my platform, poverty abatement is one of the things that we're talking about. And I'm very pleased to hear the newly elected mayor of Shelby County government, Mayor Harris, talk about poverty abatement. I'm very serious about this. Let me digress for one moment. I think I told the audience, in my neighborhood where I live now, my primary residence,
On Barton Street.
on Barton Street,
Okay,
I have seen generational poverty.
okay.
I've seen kids that grew up with me, their parents were poor, and their children were poor. I broke out of poverty such that I could send my kids to college. My kids have been able to send their kids to college. There were three families, the Massey family, the Tribble family. We were the only families that broke out of poverty in our neighborhood. So the succeeding generations did better. My theory is, Thaddeus, we have to take neighborhood by neighborhood, family by family, plant the right seeds, okay? You're gonna see me come up with a holistic program, and you're gonna hear me criticize the current administration for their focus on building buildings. We're gonna concentrate on building families. Now, obviously, I won't be around when the next generation reaches adulthood. But what I wanna do as a mayor is to get a new think tank around how do we plant seeds, how do we lay out a platform where kids that are in their early years will be a part of strong families. And that does involve the church. It involves neighborhoods. And so, you know, again, Thaddeus, I'm not gonna come on your show and say I can wave a magic wand. I'm not God. I cannot solve all these problems overnight. But I do believe that my leadership will bring sensitivity to it, would bring an understanding of the cultural dynamics of poverty that I do not think that the current administration understands. And the same thing with crime. Let me tell you what that. I met some brothers, I'm just gonna break it down to you. I met some brothers at MAPCO. The MAPCO there at, was that Danny Thomas and Crump.
Okay.
Just real brothers. So they said, you the man that tell people to get the hell out of your office, don't you? When I said, you know, just in street talk. And they were carload of those guys. And they said, you know what? I've never voted before, but I will register and vote for you. All they know about me is I'm the man that told the man to get the hell out of my office. Now, that was very important to me. That's why he will go. Now, the same kind of message I want to take to them is, look, you don't have to sell dope. Okay? We need to grow up. What's the rapper that just got killed? I'm not familiar. Yeah, I was not familiar. But I think that killing has raised the whole spectrum of thinking that black people have got to learn to love each other.
Okay.
So when I go back as mayor, you're gonna see me raise the level of consciousness of respect for human life, property, and having pride in being black. Now, you might say, well, that's pie in the sky type of stuff. Somebody got to try to do that. And I really believe, Thaddeus, that the black church, in many instances, has abandoned its responsibility.
It has.
And I'm going to talk to, let me tell you something, I'm going to make a hell of a lot of preachers mad, because I'm going to call them out.
Well, what about these? What about this group of black preachers who have come out publicly to support Jim Strickland versus Willie Herenton? What do you think about that? And what do you think their reasoning is when the black church was so fundamental in 1991 in making sure that you got elected?
Thaddeus, let me just say this to you. You and I had a private conversation. There are some so-called leaders, if you notice, they're not involved in my campaign, okay? And I don't need to call any names.
Can I?
No, please don't. I know you, please don't. They're not in my campaign. If you notice, I have a lot of young people, fresh faces in my campaign, okay? Part of the reason why I'm running again is to help to prepare the next generation of leaders, okay? Who are well-educated, competent, have a passion for economic empowerment of our people. And let's not apologize for this. One of the reasons I'm running again is because Black people are economically disenfranchised. We need to admit that, and we need to find ways to break the poverty cycle and to economically empower a group that's been left out the equation. We don't need to apologize about that. When I'm talking to white folks, I tell them the same thing.
So do you think that when we look at some of the people who have been known to be in your camp in the past, was with you, wore their big cowboy hats, you got them jobs? Okay, well, you don't want to call them. Hell, let me just do what I do, Doc. This is my show.
This is your show.
When I look at the Sidney Chisholms, I look at the Cliff Dates, I look at the Tawan Stout Mitchells, who are no longer supporting a Willie Herenton, but have joined with Tammy Sawyer, and they're joining with Jim Strickland. Are we seeing a group that no longer wants to be conducive to the benefits of black folk, and they have been bought off? They are now in bed with power brokers or white folk that's making them promises?
Thaddeus, let me take you back to 1991. I'm going to ask you a question. If you will remember, I think there were 12. There were 12 black preachers. I call it defected. Somebody didn't like my word defected. Let me tell you what I mean. They defected from the black cause. There's nothing wrong in saying that there's a black cause. Now, when we say there's a black cause, hell, when you look at the demographic, we're the poorest subset. We are a poor majority in this set. That is a fact. Am I correct?
Right.
That is a fact. So, any leader ought to want to raise the per capita income of a subset that's dragging the overall economy down, right? We need to focus on that. You've not heard me talk about my program that we're going to launch for vocational technical training. You've not heard me talk about how we want to instill in young people that everybody does not have to go to college. We want to train people in the crafts, in the trade industry. I want to bring back vocational education. I'm a lot older than you, but I remember when we went to Booker, Washington. If you wanted to be, you could go into sheet metal, bricklaying, plastering.
We still had to do in my
I'm
time.
gonna tell you,
at Manassas, right?
when I was superintendent, the state built 5 vocational technical facilities: Kingsbury, President, East, Kansas, and I'm forgetting one. What happened to that?
Northside had one. Didn't Northside have?
I don't think one was center. They didn't have a
Okay,
center. I'm talking
okay.
about vocational technical center.
Okay.
That is, man, we have a bold program. We want to bring vocational technical. They talk about workforce development. I don't see any effective workforce development for people that's in that group that you're talking about in the 38106.
So now do we say then that there is a segment of black folk who no longer want to support the black cause, okay? And whether we want to look at it or not, when we look at the numbers, black people are the majority in the city. Those who rule the majority don't look like us, okay? So when I see people detracting and detecting or whatever from your particular organization, and you brought them to the dance, okay? And you may not want to say it, but I'll say it since I'm on my show. When I go back and I look at Tawan Stout Mitchell being involved with Tammy Sawyer, and I remember that you created a job, hell, we don't know what the hell the job was, so that she could get a greater pension. When I look at Cliff Dates, who had the largest security contract of any black security company that's ever been in the city of Memphis, when I see Sidney riding on your coattails for everything that he's done in the last 20 years, it becomes offensive to me as a black man for older black folk in our generation, and I ain't that far behind you, that we no longer understand that racism exists, that white folks still use us, and we forgetting about the very elect, the people in the community.
Let me ask you this way. Jealousy, envy. Let me explain something to you, Thaddeus. And you'll experience that. I've watched you as you've grown in your media as well as your church. As I've grown older, I've learned to have a great disdain for jealousy,
Okay.
envy. Those are some very dangerous traits. What I'm running into, okay, everybody knows I'm 78 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Praise God.
Mm-hmm.
If I live to see April 23rd of this year, I'll be 79.
Mm-hmm.
Feel good, okay? Thank God for continuing to give me good health, physically and mentally.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still relevant.
Mm-hmm.
I'm relevant.
Mm-hmm.
You know why I'm still relevant?
Mm-hmm.
I paid a price to be relevant. You walk in all of these neighborhoods and across Memphis with me, people gonna show me love. Now I got some bourgeois, I got some brothers that are in the middle class and the upper middle class. That's just jealousy, envy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you experience it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's go
That's
somewhere.
all it is. Just jealousy and envy. That's all it is. They're irrelevant. I'm still relevant.
Let's go to another rumor that's out there.
Okay.
Tammy Sawyer is running for mayor, even though she just got elected in September for the very first time to the Shelby County Commission, took oath January 1, has not proven anything as an elected official. There's a rumor out, Doc, that Tammy Sawyer met with you, and out of her camp is coming the statement that you call her a crackhead.
Okay. Let me first of all, Tammy Sawyer. Who is Tammy Sawyer?
I don't know.
I don't even know her. Now, I met with a young lady that is true.
Mm-hmm.
That asked me to meet with her. His name is Tammy Sawyer. I really don't know her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think many people in Memphis know her. I did give her the courtesy of a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And the Tammy Sawyer young lady did indicate her aspirations in serving in this elected office. And she felt that our kids were behind in terms of being prepared for the technological jobs that are in the future, and that she felt that she could make a difference. It's fine. So I did have a meeting with her. I also explained to her that if I felt that someone who had the experience, the institutional knowledge that I had, and looked like me, that could bring the whole cultural dynamics of diversity to this, then I wouldn't be running.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her, I did say this to her, I said, I don't know what you're smoking, or the people that support you, but whatever y'all are smoking is some bad stuff. You ain't gonna be elected.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mention crack.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you smoking some bad stuff. I did tell her that.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never be elected mayor here. Now, that's what I did say.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you think that she's in the race to split the vote, or even if she's qualified to even be in this race?
That is, first of all, I don't like, I don't ever like just talking about my competitors. I like to talk about what I'm going to do, but I will respond to your observation. I think it is crystal clear that Tammy Sawyer cannot win. She knows that. This community will not elect her as mayor, and it should. She's not qualified. She doesn't have any experience which would allow reasonably thinking people to support her to be mayor of a major American city. Okay, we all know that. Now, I do not believe and you may have a different point of view. I do not believe that Tommy Sawyer's presence in this race is going to dilute the black vote. I think the average African-American voter in this community is going to see Tammy Sawyer for who she is and compare her to Willie Herenton, and her impact on my voting base is going to be very, very small. I think quite to the contrary, she will be probably competing with Strickland for part of his base. I don't think she's going to hurt me at all. I don't think black people are going to buy into her candidacy. Not at all. I really don't.
Well, when we look at the numbers, and you know what I would see her base would be that early 20s to 30, and they don't vote. I mean, when we look at the numbers, voters 65 and older vote 16 times greater than folk in her age category. 49.2% of registered voters over the age of 65 voted, as compared to 8.4% of registered voters aged 18 to 34. Okay, so I mean, the numbers speak for themselves.
Let me tell you one other number in there
Okay.
too. The African-American female is a very significant cohort in that population. They outvote any other segment in those demographics you've cited. My base is within that majority. The reason I say we're going to win, we're going to get our base to the poll. If we get our base to the poll, we win.
When we look at the dollars that's spent on infrastructure, basically most of those dollars go downtown. Yes, when you came into office, you had to build up downtown. But when we look at the communities, one of the biggest things that I've talked about is that crosstown thing. When I look at the city council people that were there, the black city council people, Joe Brown in particular, and I look at Klondike, New Chicago, Dixie Homes, Hyde Park, those immediate, Badwater, those immediate areas around the crosstown, those areas, and I grew up in New Chicago, none of those areas got any of the dollars. So what black folk want to know, fine, we done built up downtown. Will you as mayor make sure that some of those dollars come into the inner city, and let's build up the inner city?
That is, my focus will be on rebuilding neighborhoods, okay? Now, I want to be an example of my conviction. One of the neighborhoods that's going to be first on the list, and I'm not going to ask anybody for any incentives, is in the 38106 zip code. My own money. You're going to see me be an example of reinvesting in deteriorating neighborhoods, okay? And not asking any government for any money, my own money. So to answer your question, part of our focus is in rebuilding declining neighborhoods. We're going to have a real clear focus on neighborhoods, declining neighborhoods.
What has Jim Strickland, what is it rather that Jim Strickland should have done, especially when it comes to black people and the black community, that he has not done?
Well, that is part of my style is I don't really talk about the incumbent. I really talk about my vision, my platform, what I'm going to do, as opposed to what the current mayor has done. I just firmly believe that at this particular time in the history of Memphis, the experiences that we have
Mhm.
gained
Mm-hmm.
in that particular office, the wisdom, is particularly needed at this critical juncture.
Mm-hmm.
I've known Mayor Strickland for a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a very nice guy. I just think in terms of what the city needs, I just don't think that Jim is the man to do it. It's just that simple.
Minority economic empowerment, I see it's a part of your platform. I hear so often that qualified black companies cannot get contracts with the city. As mayor, will you make sure, I know that the city council votes on contracts, but none of those contracts can go in place until you as the mayor sign off on them. Will you make a mandate that blacks, and I'm talking about qualified, insured, people who have all of the right qualifications, will you be making sure that black folk make some of this city money?
That is my leadership going all the way back to when I was school superintendent, has always been directed at empowering people that have historically been left out.
Mm-hmm.
So I will continue to do that. If you go back to when I was school superintendent, we initiated the first, they called it affirmative action programs then.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was in 1982.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been out here for black businesses, economic empowerment for black people since the 1980s.
Mm-hmm.
The FedEx Forum, all those big projects, we had significant black participation, and we're going to continue to do that.
Jim Strickland has said he's the only candidate with a plan. What do you say?
Well, a plan to do what?
A plan. Hell, he didn't tell us what the plan was. He said he got a plan. I guess he's been in office. I guess he got a plan for economics. I guess he got a plan for the reduction of crime. We haven't seen it.
Yeah.
So what do you say to a man who says he has a plan and has not shown you what the plan is?
Well, that is, I think before the election is over, the incumbent mayor will present a plan. We will present a plan, and then the voters will decide the person they think can best give leadership to the city of Memphis. I think he'll have a plan. Question is, which plan will the voters of Memphis think is in their best interest? I hope they'll think that our platform will be.
When I look at your platform, I see that juvenile justice reform is a part of your platform. Explain that to us.
That is, if you will recall, I presented a proposal to the Shelby County government. Mayor Luttrell was the county mayor at that particular time. I got the county commissioners to approve, we call it New Path, Restorative Campus. I could not get the juvenile court judge, Judge Michaels, to buy into the program, so it was aborted.
Mm-hmm.
But my passion and my mission to ensure that young people ought to have intervention. We ought to try to, first of all, prevent them from getting caught up in the juvenile justice system. But there ought to be interventions. And if you will recall, I mean, I had the funding. We were going to buy the land where the old inspection station was downtown. I had outside funding. Judge Michaels and Mayor Luttrell at that particular time never gave that any support, even though the county commission had backed it. I'm going to push forward with that as a mayor. I think I will have a stronger leadership role, and we've done best practices analysis, and that's very dear to me, Thaddeus, because as you well know, we imprison more people in this country than any civilized nation in the world. these juvenile offenders really represent a pipeline into the adult prison system. We gotta break that. The school to prison pipeline, I wanna help to break that in the city of Memphis. We already have some plans. Yeah, we already have some plans already in mind. And you're gonna see that. The Gideon 300 is a part of that.
All right, tell me about
Churches
this.
are a part of
Tell me
it.
about this
No,
Gideon 300.
actually, what's gonna happen, that is, I'm gonna get you a document in your hand.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll get you a document tomorrow.
So you're going to ask black preachers, the black church, to get involved in doing what?
You're gonna get this plan tomorrow, Thaddeus, in your hands. Because I want you to analyze it. It's so theologically based. It's tied into councilmatic districts. It's a well thought out plan. Yeah. And then I'm gonna tell you the ministers that I invited and the ones who came and the ones who gave me lip service and never followed through. I've heard you ask for your mentoring program for boys. Once you see the Gideon 300, you're gonna buy into it.
And I'm asking men Saturday morning
You're gonna buy it.
because the first mentoring program is going to be on the 20th, but I'm asking black men that support more than just talking about the problems that we have with our black men, and some of the problems that we have with our black boys is because black men walked away from their children. So 10 a.m. Saturday morning at the church, 3835 Raleigh Millerton Road. There is this talk about let's do the curfew law, and that's going to reduce the crime with our young people. Do you believe that that's the answer?
No, not in itself. I mean, we've had curfew laws in Memphis before. I don't.
And it's been on the books
It's been
forever.
on the books forever. There was a lack of enforcement. I mean, that's just one idea. I don't think that's a solution, no.
As we look at your campaign that's officially off the ground now, do you think that there will be an onslaught of attack by white controlled media against Willie Herenton?
Well, let's put it this way, Thaddeus. I've already tracked newspaper articles. What's this guy's name? I remember one article he wrote when I first announced.
Paraski?
No, he's an investigative reporter. I know him well. It's not him.
Okay.
They got to get a Ray Poe or some guy. I don't know.
Okay,
What's
yeah.
his name? Yeah.
Hope.
Okay. He wrote an article. I said, well, I mean, he might as well be on the mayor's staff.
Mhm.
It was so biased. So here's what I expect from the media outlets that you have mentioned earlier. I expect them to be extremely biased. They will be very supportive of Mayor Strickland. They will portray me as being divisive. Here's the key words they like to describe me. I am a lightning rod. I am divisive. Those are the words that they have. They're also going to say that Mayor Strickland has momentum. That's the key word you gotta work. You're gonna hear all this momentum stuff. You're gonna hear us dissect what they call momentum. And let me just give you a little taste of it tonight. When you hear them talk about momentum, who's the momentum for? It's for the wealthy developers, okay? The rich gets richer and the poor gets poor. You know, you've heard this adage, rising tide lifts all boats. We've got a lot of people in Memphis that don't even have a boat. That's the group that we're gonna be speaking to. So you're gonna hear them say, everything's great in Memphis. All of these incentives that you hear these people are talking about, it doesn't benefit New Chicago. It benefits the people that have the wealth and they come into Memphis and they're getting all of these tax incentives, and it does not create jobs for Memphians. All of these new jobs. That is, I lived downtown for 2 years. You didn't know that. I lived downtown for 2 years. I lived in a very popular apartment complex. And I would talk to most of these kids don't even live in Memphis.
Mhm.
They came here to work for corporations.
Mhm.
Are you following me? They're
Mhm.
not Memphians.
Mhm.
When you hear them talking about building these new hotels, the jobs they have in there for people who look like you are maids.
Mhm.
And if
Mhm.
they can get Mexicans, they won't hire you.
Okay, okay.
So you
So,
understand?
so what can black folk, which is your base, okay,
Okay.
what can black folk expect Willie Herenton to do for them that's going to benefit them not only sociologically, but financially, economically? How are you as mayor going to impact the lives of black folk in this community?
Okay, let me first of all, Thaddeus, you may disagree with me on this. First of all, I think black people, and I don't want to get into no gross generalization. Let me give you an example. And I don't know how you grew up. No one in my family has ever been on welfare.
Okay,
Never.
okay.
No one in my family has ever been on welfare. Anything we achieved in life, we worked for. I didn't even know who the mayor was when I was growing up. I didn't give a damn who the mayor was.
Mm-hmm.
The first mayor that I focused on was Wild Chandler. I saw him because I liked the way he was handling he had a strike with the police department. That's a tough guy. And then we later fell out, Chandler and I. But I've never looked for government to do anything for me.
Mm-hmm.
My business I started, I didn't get any government loans.
Mm-hmm.
So that is, you need to know, I'm in a position where I think government ought to provide, they ought to provide services. For example, people ought to have a strong infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
That cat like you got, you ought to be able to drive it down the street, not have your and no potholes bending up, your brakes and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Government ought to provide for the general welfare of the people it serves.
Mm-hmm.
As a mayor, you ought to, that's what I want to ensure. You got strong public safety, you got strong infrastructure, and you have equal access to economic opportunities for jobs and contracts.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the mayor ought to do. There ought to be a level playing field. You ought to not be disadvantaged or disenfranchised because of your race, gender, or that's what I bring to the table. Now, I'll also bring a special sensitivity to history and to people needing some help.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like this. I don't like this feeling that government owes
you.
everybody.
Right.
I think that's been part of our mistake.
Mm-hmm.
I want to build a sense of independence,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to give people the opportunity to be independent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to expect them to be independent when they don't have opportunities to be. I want to help them to lessen their dependence on government,
Mm-hmm.
but to be independent. You're independent. You go to work every day. You created these opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what I want to do. So mine is a whole different. Let me tell you this: that I've had almost 10 years out of government to reflect, to think. Yeah, I've had a lot to think about. You asked me earlier, what would I do differently than what I did when I was there before? Obviously, I want to surround myself with people that and give them experiences so they can succeed me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I didn't do that the last time.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I want to do is, and you preach it all the time, raise the aspiration of a lot of our people that they don't always have to work for somebody.
Okay.
It's entrepreneurship. Okay, we want to do a lot of that, but we also want to give them opportunities to giving them small grants and loans to help them to start their business. I don't know if the city does that now.
Mm-hmm.
You remember we had what was that? Was it 555 bill? I had a center there, economic development,
Mm-hmm.
and we would help people to write their business plans. They could get bridge loans and all.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where that is now. I've been gone so long.
You mentioned Beale Street.
Yeah.
And on your way out of office, there was the beginning of an investigation to where all the money was
Mm-hmm.
on Beale Street. Ricky Wilkins was heading that investigation. Ricky found a whole lot of money that John Elkington had did away with. Myron Laurie at that time stopped the investigation. Warden was elected, gave Elkington a whole parade and the key to the city. When we look at the income that comes in on Beale Street, will you, as mayor of the city, take a closer look now at how the money is coming in, where it's being spent? We look at the Beale Street Development Corporation that back in the late 70s went on the wire Chandler, went and got the federal dollars that have never received their portion of the monies all of these years that they were supposed to get. Will you look again into where the tax money, where the money on Beale Street is going, and make sure that not only the citizens of Memphis get some of that money, but Beale Street Development Corporation, a black corporation that brought the money back, that the city honors their contract with them?
Let me just say this, Thaddeus. I think a lot has changed. And a lot has changed via the city council has gotten involved in this now, and I believe that certain resolutions have been passed. I don't even know the controlling bodies. I believe, in order to answer your question, I would have to know the present state of governance and control, because I think a lot has changed in a decade. I'm not sure, and I remember the old days with Catron and all. And I did, we spent, I don't know how many years investigating, and finally we did what is called a forensic accounting analysis. We brought a firm in, I believe, out of Philadelphia. And if memory serves me correctly, Ricky Wilkins was doing an outstanding job. We had really, for the first time, had really gotten solid evidence that the city was owed money. I think if memory serves me correctly, I think Ricky found about $6 million that he felt through this forensic analysis was due to the city of Memphis. I left office. You're right. Lowry came in, and I think Warden cut a deal with John. John always knew I would never cut a deal with them. I never did, and I would never cut a deal with them. Okay? The deal was cut. I don't know the contents of it. I think the essence of your question is, would I revisit that? I will revisit what the current status is. I believe now they've changed the governance structure. A lot has changed. It's not the way it was when you and I were familiar with this.
In running let me take this commercial break. Okay. Let me make it a quick commercial break. I got about 2-3 more questions I want to ask the mayor. We'll be right back. Did you make your meeting?
Yeah.
Did you accomplish anything?
Huh?
Did you get a check?
Well, you know, it wasn't as large as I wanted it. I could have talked about 30 minutes later, man, and got me another $3,000. Mike paid the bill, though. You paid the bill, right, Mike? Oh, yeah, I got the receipt for the bill. Oh, no, you don't need it. Mike, he made sure we got a big tab down there in Houston. So we had a meeting down there for real. We got out of,
in Houston?
Yeah, I had a dinner meeting there, but I left them. $300 bill there. You got, he got $300.
You paid the bill?
He gonna give me that receipt. That's what I'm letting you know. He just see that up there, $300 over there. So we had a dinner, okay? Hey, Mike, what I told you, was that correct?
Yeah.
Who's gonna show up?
No.
I didn't show up?
Oh, no.
No.
They didn't? Maybe because when I sent the message I did, they didn't show up.
How many I got?
Okay, okay.
How many?
No.
Yeah.
You got one more after this one.
Which one?
It's the Bernard Funeral Home.
Don't worry about it. Bring me back after this.
Mike, that is just homework. He got
Huh?
5 pages of questions he had for me.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn. Still got 2 more.
I'm just,
Or you said 3 more. That was long, 2 hours.
man, he put me on record on rawness, but you know, I told him, he smoked, then he smoked me out, I didn't, on some other people's name, but he smoked them out, I ain't calling their names.
Okay.
How many minutes I got left?
10.
How many minutes I got left?
10.
10 minutes.
I said he want all of them,
Mike, make sure we get Thaddeus on that, Gideon 300.
Yeah.
Once he sees that,
I'll tell you.
see, he's doing a Memphis, bro, when he sees how well thought out, oh, we got a plan. Yes, sir, it's around juvenile and his church, you won't, this is theologically based.
Okay.
You gonna love it. Yes, we want you to buy into it. Yes, sir.
I'd welcome back as we're in the closing minutes of my time here with Dr. Herenton. And y'all might not get this no more because he done said he ain't going to the white folks TV shows to do this. Doc, as you're running, do you think that the developers are going to dry up? It takes a lot of money to run a campaign like you're running. Do you think that there will be attempts to drive the money up on you?
Well, we already see that.
Okay.
I think the incumbent mayor, the last time I saw the newspapers, I think he has about maybe $800,000–900,000, and they'll raise it even more if they think that he could possibly lose. So we were there before. In 1991, the corporate Memphis did not support me. If you will remember, when I gave speeches primarily to black people, I said we're going to have to raise funds on the nickels, dimes, and the quarters of black people because corporate Memphis is not going to support me.
T,
Yeah.
T, do you have that lower third HerentonForMayor.com? It should still be the system. Can you do it real quick? HerentonForMayor.com. And we're gonna put this up so she can get it done. So those of you who want to get involved. Doc, in 5 minutes, I'm gonna give you 5 minutes of my show
Yes, sir.
to look into that camera and tell the citizens of Memphis, particularly your base, why they should vote for you.
Well, first of all, Thaddeus, I was born in Memphis in 1940, in the heyday of racial segregation. Came up from a broken home family. So no doubt about it, I am a Horatio Alger type of figure. I think whatever God has allowed me to accomplish as a public servant is a good example for young people who are born in poverty, black, that they can make it in this country. So I think I'm still a strong symbol of success for a lot of people who are in the downtrodden. I still think that I represent that particular symbol. I think also is that I have enough stripes, enough arrows in my back, enough kicks that have made me so resilient to the pressures of the office of mayor that I am still suitable to move the city in the right direction and to make the hard decisions that benefit all of the citizens of Memphis. To sum it all up, I think you're hard pressed when you look at the landscape of the candidates that are running. Obviously, I am the best qualified. There's no question about that. I have the wisdom, I have the experience, I have the know-how, and let's face it. When I was mayor, I did a lot of things right, and there was some things I didn't do that was nothing that was ever illegal. And there's some things that I probably would do again, and some I wouldn't do again.
Mhm.
To make a long story short, I am the only proven leader that is a candidate for the office of mayor. I'm the best qualified. That's the best reason to vote for me.
And I guess that pretty much says it. HerentonForMayor.com is on the screen. If you want to know more about his campaign, or if you want to be a volunteer in this particular campaign, go to that website right now, HerentonForMayor.com. HerentonForMayor.com. There is a spot there where you can give your name, your telephone number, your address. One of the things that's important is I don't trust the Shepherd County Election Commission. Okay. Will you put a special group or something special that we remember election night 1991? You know, we remember the tricks that can be played. Will you have some type of mechanism in place to make sure that the election is not stolen from you?
Well, first of all, Thaddeus, what do you call the dial machines? It's been documented that those machines are flawed and can be manipulated, okay? And we concur with you that the Election Commission lacks integrity in terms of a lot of us having confidence that elections will be monitored fairly. I share the same misgivings about that. Now, how do you technically, defend your views about that? I don't know, but I would say this: they bear watching. The trust factor, the distrust factor, is still there, even with me. So I think we've got time. I'm not sure what machines they're going to use for this election. I don't think those decisions have been made yet.
Okay.
I've heard them talk about purchasing, and I've heard them talk about some paper ballots where you can go in and trace how people vote. I hope they come up with a process that gives us a greater sense of confidence that there will be integrity and honesty in the process. I don't know that as of yet.
What about voter registration for those who are not registered?
We are going to launch a massive voter registration program and all segments of the Memphis community, like we did in '91. I mean, that's one of the reasons we won. Is we had a very successful voter registration, and you're going to see us target a lot of the young people that are not registered to vote. So we're going to be very active in that.
Okay. Well, my guest has been Dr. W.W. Herenton, former mayor of the city of Memphis, elected 5 times. And I think the greatest question that I had tonight was the opening question as to why Dr. Herenton left office in 2009. He was being investigated, and there are some things he ain't said, that I'll say when he's not here, and I'll call some of them names of some of them white folk that did some of the things, and Richard Fields, God rest his soul in hell, and the manipulation of the system. Let me tell you something. If we as black folk go to the polls, Dr. Herenton, a real man, a proven leader. This is not a time in the city of Memphis that we need novices, that we need people practicing to to run for other offices. And I send a message, as I've said before, to Tammy Sawyer, this is not Chicago. And I think she understands exactly what I mean. And if I have to get plainer throughout this campaign, I will. We must work to bring this city back together, to be economically empowered. We must have fearless leadership. And I know some would say, well, he's supposed to be the mayor of all the people. Well, basically 70 to 75% of the city of Memphis is black folk. We are out registered more than white folk because our numbers are bigger. If we go to the polls, we can win. And let me send a message to you handkerchief head preachers. I will call you out. I will be calling you out. Those of you who are supporting Jim Strickland, I will be calling you out. But more than that, I want to speak real quickly to the members of the churches of those guys who pastor that. They ain't got but one damn vote. And a whole lot of them don't even live in the city of Memphis and will not be able to vote. If they are pushing Jim Strickland on a Sunday morning, they are in violation of their 501c3. If they're holding any meetings in their church with Jim Strickland and does not give the other candidates in this race the opportunity to come and share, they are violating their 501c3. So hell, I ain't gonna have no meetings at my church. I'm gonna do all of my hell raising right here. I firmly support Dr. Herenton in this race, and all's fair. I will not, well, I ain't gonna be fair, and they don't even tell that lie. Well, all's fair in love and war, and I ain't in love, so this is war. It's about making a change for black people. I remember growing up in New Chicago. I remember all of the industries that we had in the black community. It is time for us to reclaim what is going on. Someone sent me some information about something that is going on in North Memphis from from Breedlove all the way to Watkins. There's supposed to be some type of revitalization. They sent me the paperwork on it. And see, and Joe Brown, I gotta ask you, because see, your business is right there on that corner. So what the white folks done gave you, okay? And while you talking about you gonna run for the clerk of the city of Memphis, hell no, you ain't did a damn thing for the folk in North Memphis and Klondike as the city council representative. We've got to also make sure that the people that are running on the city council are people that we can trust and have an interest in the well-being of black folk in this community. Is my time up? Put the erector up one more time. For the men that you left me wide open. Put the erector up. For the men that can't get none and you need to get some, that thing ain't working. You ain't as good as me and Dr. Herenton here. I got your magic. It'll raise Lazarus from the dead. So right now, go to the erector at gmail.com. The erector at gmail.com. That's the only place to go and say, I want a free sample, and all you got to do is pay the $5 postage. Dr. Herenton, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
For taking out of your busy schedule to come and be here with us on tonight. We'll be pushing this candidacy. You'll see his advertising on this show whenever there is a voters registration, a massive voters registration drive going on. We'll be telling you about the times and the locations so that you can go out and make sure that you're involved in this campaign. All right, tomorrow night, I'll probably be back on the preacher that got dead, because I guess he might have had too much erector. So we'll be talking about that on tomorrow night. On Friday night, the owner of the erector company will be here on the show for a small period of time. Thank you so much again, Dr. Herenton. Thanks to all of you. Please make sure that you are registered to vote. We need to also, Doc, check that purge list, okay? Because the Shelby County Election Commission has purged a whole lot of voters. So we need to make sure Mike's good at getting stuff together. He technical and stuff. We need to get a copy of that purge list, because there are some people who may not know that they've been purged and cannot vote, and we need to make sure that they are re-registered or do whatever it takes to make sure that they're on the voters' rolls again. Until tomorrow night, I'm the baddest man on TV. My name is Fattiest Matthews. We'll do it all over again. Until then, top of the evening to